Hello and welcome back to another episode of How It Was Made. I'm Josh. This is Contineofy, following up on the previous video where we were talking about fonts. Today we're talking about colors, color theory. It's one of those like mystical things that it's like, is it real? Is it not real? I'm here to tell you there is a good amount of realism when it comes to color theory. I know a lot of people are just like, oh, it's just a way for a graphic designer or a brand identity person to be able to just charge a bunch of money because there's theory and psychology behind colors. And the reality is there is. For instance, I wanted to share a quick story that reminded me of this as I was going through this video. Was a few years back, it was like 2018, 2019, was working at IBM. And while I worked there, I was running global campaigns around the world in Europe and Latin America, Brazil, United States, and China. And what was crazy is that historically, we all know IBM is big blue, right? Everything's blue. They're big blue. But in China, everything is orange. Like there's no blue whatsoever. To craziness is that at one point we went to them and we were getting pushed by the higher ups in corporate that we needed to ensure that everybody was using the right colors and nobody was going rogue. And we had to reach out to our counterparts in China and be like, hey, like you need to stay on brand. You need to start using blue instead of the orange. And I kid you not, the moment that they did that, within a few weeks, we started seeing conversion rates drop. And we're like, ooh, like the only thing that was really changing was the colors. So we're like, all right, go back to orange. And I kid you not, within a few weeks, everything kind of went back to normal. And that shows the power of color. That although blue has this like sophistication and trust and kind of technology, like stability appeal in the United States and other countries around the world. In China, it just does not have the same appeal. And I can't remember what the exact psychology was behind it, but I felt like orange was more of a like harmonious stability because they're like China's still very much in touch with like the natural colors. So obviously orange being like sunset and like really healthy fruits are orange. There's kind of this, that's their luxury and kind of like abundance is orange, where in the United States, obviously trustworthy and stability. For some reason, we like blue. Not sure why. It's not a rabbit hole that I've actually gone down of like why certain colors appeal in certain countries, but I'm sure there's something there. But yeah, for us, that's what happened. So thinking through when choosing your colors, there's a few things that you need to think about. So when I was going through the process of choosing the colors for Contineofy, as you can see, it's midnight blue and a dark purple. But for me, it was especially aligning with the theories behind blue in the Americas, considering I'm currently just targeting the United States. Dark blue was definitely one of those like stabilities. It aligned with technology. There's a sense of like sophistication. There's like a dark moody to it. It wasn't like bright blues and like light blues like you see on like Facebook or LinkedIn or Messenger, or even some of your more financial companies. They always have like a sense in blue just because of the stability. But for me, I just wanted this kind of like dark, moody, sophisticated look. So I went with a darker blue. And then the purple was one of those like, it's a good complement color. Also, if you dig into purple, it's also like lines with like luxury and ambition. Because back in the day, purple was one of those dyes that was really hard to come by when you're wanting to create like purple clothing. Only the rich could afford it because it was really complicated to create a purple dye. Purple has kind of always been one of those like aligns with luxury and ambition. So for me, wanting to kind of correlate with SaaS brands, I was kind of like, I want the dark blue for the moody sophistication, technology, stability outlook. But then obviously the purple is the royalty that kind of wanted to align with ambition and that we're trying to chase these big dreams. Obviously, you're here to create revenue and be able to obtain bigger and better things. So that was kind of the reasoning behind the dark blue and the purple. But for you, when you're thinking about what colors you want to represent your brand, I feel like there's a lot more weight you need to put here than the fonts. Yes, the fonts are important, but I feel like a lot more resonates because we're more like we're visual creatures. And like we said, colors, there is some sort of psychology behind it of what colors mean. And I mean, even if you go back to cave days, it's like certain colors were like warnings, like the brighter the color, the more healthy the fruit. Even animals, like poisonous animals, are usually bright colored. So we're like, ooh, stay away from bright color stuff because those things are probably poisonous. So there is some sense of psychology behind it. So in choosing your colors, there's really two ways to go about this. There's the kind of researching and inspiration that I'm going to share a couple tools here in a minute where I'm going to share my screen. But then you can also, like, from a research standpoint, kind of go out to your competitors and other people in the market and see what colors they're using. Because you don't want to use things that are like too similar, because then from a branding standpoint, you'll start like confusing people because they're like, oh, I thought that was that brand. And now you're very similar and you're competing. Like, you want to be able to stand out. So from a psychology standpoint, it's like, you want to pick similar colors, but obviously have different hues that you want to dig into. But then also from a psychology standpoint, there's a number of things that you can go down from a rabbit hole perspective, and just even looking at the psychology behind different hex colors can help you align your brand with the right things. So share my screen here real quick. There's 3 tools I want to share that can definitely at least give you a good starting point, that when you're trying to figure out colors, they don't really rely much on the psychology of the color until you actually dig into the hex colors, but they'll at least give you a good place to start when you're looking at different combinations, colors you want to use. And just like fonts, you don't want to go too crazy with the amount of colors you pick. Ideally, you want like 1 to 2 primary colors and then maybe 1 to 4 secondary colors that you'll kind of have this like color library that you'll use from. A lot of times if you go too many, then people won't actually associate those, like the colors, that all the colors you pick with your brand. But at the same time, you don't want to pick you want to pick enough colors that there's a variety and you're not just coming off very monotone. So ideally, again, you want 1 to 2 primary colors and then 1 to 4 secondary colors. And then that'll give you a good enough blend of colors that you can kind of use in your social imagery, on your website, that you'll have enough variation that you won't come off monotone. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and we're going to dive into 3 places you can go to figure out your color combos. So one of the first things I want to share is a brand called Colors. They have a lot of tools out there that can help you figure out your color library. From a free perspective, though, they have this kind of trending color palettes, which, like I said, they don't really tell you the psychology behind the colors, but it at least gives you somewhere that you could start from that you're like, ooh, I like that combination of colors. Like, for instance, I kind of like this one. This one's kind of digging me. It kind of reminds me of Red Bull. It's just the colors. Like, I'm watching the F1 series, and yeah, this is very much reminds me of that color palette. That's just some strong, bold colors. But kind of going through here, you can kind of get in a sense of colors that work well together, that you could literally pick this library of color combinations and you get the hex colors and start using it for yourself. But there's a crazy amount of variations through here. You're gonna have an endless scroll. You can also come in here, and if you already have like your primary colors, you could add your hex color up here, and then it will show you combinations. So for instance, the color for Contineofy 00366, that then I can come in here and find color combinations that work well with that hex color. So if you have your primary colors, this will allow you to kind of find those complementary colors really fast. Another brand that's very similar to that, it's been around a little longer. Obviously, the UI is not as fun, but Color Combos is another one out there that you can find some quick combinations. I tend to use Color Combos back in the day. And again, you can search by colors. So I can come in here and put my purple or blue in here and then find combinations for that color. I guess that's not a good one. 003. Let's try this one. There we go. So I've got a couple in here for blue, but yeah, this brand's been around a lot longer. It's a little wonkier. And as you can see, it loads really, really slow because they're blasting you with advertisements. So, but yeah, this one's been around a while. There's a lot of articles if you want to come in here and figure out psychology and a lot of that stuff. You'll see more because they've been around for a lot longer. They have a lot more articles, but you can see well, you can't see it, but I had the rainbow wheel because, yeah, there's a lot going on this website that they're just trying to capitalize on ads. Another great one that's similar to colors and a little more friendlier. I typically use colors to figure out what colors to use, but I like Color Kit because it not only allows you to come in here and figure out the colors you want. So I can come in here again and put my hex color and create a palette, and it'll help me generate my colors. But I can also come in here and then I could download this, and you can do your adjustments for your hues, which is really nice. Another great thing in here is that you can create your gradients. So you can come in here and look and see what things are going to look for gradient. There's also another one is that you want to look into when you're figuring out your colors is also going through the process of making sure that you have proper contrast. So they have a color contrast tracker out here that you can kind of put your main color, and then if you're adding text or imagery or trying to find something that contrasts very well, especially for people that have visual impairments where they only see certain colors, obviously this has terrible contrast. If I were to come in here and put the actual color of font I use, you can see that I am okay. This is the typical color combination. But yeah, if you're coming in here and wanting to figure out complementary colors, like if I were to put my purple against this, obviously it would fail because there's not enough contrast. So this is a place that I see a lot of brands mess up, especially when you're first picking colors, is that they'll pick things that there's just not enough contrast. And especially when you're using the darker backgrounds or your colored background and then putting text over top, it makes it extremely hard to read. And you'll see a lot of people bounce from your website. Bouncing means like they visit your website, but then quickly leave without visiting other pages on your website. So I do like Color Kit's color contrast. So this is definitely something you'll want to look for yourself when you're figuring out your colors, and making sure that you have a success on all of these. Another thing that Color Kit does really nice is this background maker. As you can see when you visit the Contineofy website, the heroes, there's this contrast of colors. And what's nice is that I can come in here and make the gradients, and then I can download this as a JPEG and be able to use this for my backgrounds. And this is literally how I did mine. So like the hero video, there's a video, but then there's a overlay, and you can do this at widescreen. You can get a mobile version, squares, portraits, 4Ks. It's also nice that you can come in here, you can change up the angles depending on how you want things to look. But if you're wanting to have a social media thumbnail where you want things to be consistent across the board, you can come in here and download this at different perspectives so that you could have it for your social media thumbnails as well, so that the same gradients that you're using on your website, you can use on your social thumbnails. So this is really nice. They also have a really good blog, again, similar to Color Combos, where they're talking about all the psychology of the different colors and making it so that you have a better understanding of what you're creating. But yeah, Color Kit, colors, and color combos are three great places to go when trying to figure out your colors. But yeah, you can start here and kind of get an idea of like what looks good. But if you're really wanting to get into the psychology of the color, then obviously copy the hex color. Most times you can go out to Google and say, here's the hex color. What's the color meaning behind this? And most colors, you'll get some sense of meaning behind it, even if it's kind of a broad stroke that this is a shade of purple and it means royalty. You'll at least kind of get an idea of where you're shooting and what you're trying to align with so that it matches your brand voice and the appeal that you're trying to create with your brand, whether you're being sophisticated, technology, luxurious, high-level enterprise. I'm sure there's even certain colors out there that are better for technology and AI. I mean, I think about looking at most of the movies where there's high levels of AI, like Oblivion is one, and there was like it was lots of white and black. Obviously, black being power and white being purity. But it would be interesting to see, like, if you have a software company that there's a lot of AI attached to it, what sense of colors appeal most in that situation. It's a rabbit hole I want to go down. But yeah, if you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe. This was color theory in a nutshell. Like I shared why I chose purple and blue, and then how you can kind of go about figuring out your color combinations, going down the rabbit holes and looking at color psychology, because it does matter, as I shared with the IBM story of changing from big blue to orange and seeing drastic conversion rates decrease. And then the moment we switch back to orange, all of a sudden the conversion rates increase, even though we're supposed to be big blue. It's crazy, but don't overlook it, especially if you're doing a global brand, because what appeals in the United States might not appeal in every country you tend to sell your platform in. As always, my name is Josh. This is another episode of How It Was Made, presented by Contineofy. Until next time, keep building.